Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our OASIS Plus, What Tools You Will Need to Prepare Your Proposal webinar, hosted by GDI Consulting. My name is Muge Carsley, and I have with me my colleague Ab Vand, where we will show you some of these tools that you are going to need for OASIS Plus. Some administrative notes. The webinar is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be sent to you within 24 hours. We are going to hold a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to send in your questions during this webinar, and you can use that through your chat system to the right of your window. We're going to address all questions at the end. Also, you can download this presentation by clicking on the link under the file on the right-hand side of the panel of your window. Just a little outline or agenda of our webinar today. We're going to give you a quick run of review of what is the OASIS Plus vehicle. What do you need as far as tools, phasing in self-scoring proposal preparations, the tools that you will need for phase one, your contract selection tool, your contract profile, contract score analyzer, contract selector, which is your optimizer, tools for phase two, the substantiation matrix, compliance checklists, tools for phase three, again, the compliance checklist, submission checklist, post-submission checklist. Then we're going to give you a quick overview about our company, and we're going to then address your questions. So just a quick introduction to the GSA OASIS Plus 101 GWAC or MAC. So it is put out by the GSA. This is a multiple award IDIQ, or a multi-agency contract is how we refer to it. It does have an estimated value of a $60 billion ceiling. Number of awards is unlimited. There has been a draft of RFP that was issued on March 6th. It was the second draft. The full RFP due date has been postponed a couple of times. It's expected to be announced sometime this month. When it is released, the proposals will be due 90 days after the issuance of the RFP. The tracks that can go after OASIS Plus are total small business, 8A, Hub Zone, SDB, OSB, women-owned, and unrestricted. The domains that are under OASIS Plus are management advisory, technical and engineering, research and development, intelligence service. For the unrestricted domain only, they have added enterprise solutions. There's environmental, facilities, and logistics. Quickly, just again, a review of the scoring system. The maximum score for all domains is 50. That is the maximum score you can get. Minimum to qualify as a score for small businesses, it's 36 for all domains, and it is 42 for unrestricted, with the exception of the enterprise solutions. That one's score for a minimum is 45. The key players, we need 5 qualifying projects, which give you a maximum of 35 to 45 points, or 70 to 90% of your score, basically depending on your score. For the scoring system, again, your 5 qualifying projects or QPs, they're 35 to 45 points, and a variation is based on the domain on how that is calculated. For the federal experience projects or FEPs, you get 3 to 11 points, again, based on the domain. And then your systems and certifications and clearances, they give you from obviously 0 to 6 points. Again, it depends on the domain. We're going to now start the tools, why we need the tools section. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ab.
Thank you, Muge, and hello, everyone. So first, we need to know why we really need tools at all, and then we'll dive into the different tools that we have. There are 3 main reasons we would need tools. First one is to conserve time and energy, which is essentially less cost. So you'll get quicker turnaround of the results. You get less involvement of your specialized resources, your people, such as proposal managers, directors, contract managers, everyone else. And this less staff involved and less time spent all translates into less cost. So that's the first thing. The second benefit of this is it simplifies the analytic aspect of self-scoring proposals. Essentially, the difference between traditional proposal writing and self-scoring proposals is that in traditional proposal writing, everything revolves around how good you write. So writing skills are really important. Whereas in self-scoring proposals, your analytical skills are the cornerstone. Now, when you have proper tools, you can actually simplify the analytical process and allow more and more people, not just the top-notch analytical people, more of your staff to be able to participate in the proposal preparation process. So that is also important, and that's the second issue. Third issue is regarding compliance. You want to ensure compliance. So because non-compliance has always been number one enemy in all these self-scoring submissions, doesn't matter whether it's OASIS Plus or Alliant or any other type of self-scoring. Always non-compliance is the issue. So you want to prevent that. And if you have proper tools, then you can ensure that both in format and content, you remain compliant with the RFP requirements. And in terms of compliance, you also need tools to ensure that you're doing your submission and post-submission audit properly. And we'll get to that. It's important because especially for GSA type proposals, when you have to submit to Symphony, it's not just a copy paste or just emailing. Uploading to Symphony is a task, is a step by itself, and you want to make sure that you don't make any mistakes, and that's where some of these checklists and tools come into play. So before we go into the tools, I want to discuss the different phases in preparing the proposal, because then you would design your tools that you're going to use based on those phases. So we need to have an understanding of the phases that we're going to have. Essentially, we consider 3 phases to our proposal preparation. Now, you might divide this into more phases. Each phase can be divided into more steps, but essentially, there are 3 as far as we are concerned. Phase 1 is eligibility assessment and score optimization. So essentially here, in this one, you want to know which domains and tracks, including if you're going unrestricted or small business, do you want to go after? And you have a chance of success, whether, and then which contracts that you have are eligible, because obviously OASIS Plus, like any other self-scoring, has some requirements, things like the annual value threshold or the 5-year performance period, things like that. So you want to see which contracts you have are eligible for that. And then you might have, say, 10 contracts, 12 contracts. Larger companies have 50. I've worked with companies with 250 contracts. You want to know which ones to pick out of the pool of past performed projects that you have. So you will have, you'll be able to maximize your score. And then finally, for those companies who are partnering with others, you want to have something that gauges which contracts are your good contracts and where you're having problems, so you can bring in partners. And also, you want a tool to gauge your partner's score as well. So all of this comes into phase 1, where at the end of phase 1, you'll know what your score, best score, that's why we call it optimization, is. You first check whether you're eligible, and then what's your best score, what's the optimized score. In phase 2, you work on what you have gained in phase one. So essentially in phase one, you've come up with the 5 QPs that you want to go after. So here in phase two, you want to prepare the proposal. And in self-scoring proposals, proposal preparation means substantiation, means that you essentially use the contract documents to prove the score that you actually had in phase one. So you're actually essentially putting together all the contract documents as spelled out by the RFP that prove and ensure that you can, claim the score that you came up with in phase one. So that's essentially phase two. And then phase three, we want to go after compliance. So we do 2 rounds of reviews on that proposal, usually, that you prepared in phase two. And then once your compliance checks on the proposal is good, then based on the checklist that you create, you want to make sure that your submission to Symphony goes smoothly and without a glitch, without any mistakes. And once it's up there, you want to do a final audit to make sure that everything you've submitted after uploading, everything is in place, you've got the correct score, and you've got the correct documents up there. So these are the things that you do in phase three. So essentially phase one, you come up with the best score. Phase two, you prepare the proposal equals substantiation using contract documents. And phase three, you review for compliance and submit to Symphony. So these are the phases, and we're going to discuss the tools that you would need based on these phases. So this is a diagram of the 3 phases, just to give a pictorial view of it. Phase one, eligibility assessment, score optimization. Phase two, proposal preparation equals substantiation. Phase three, compliance reviews and submission. So that's the phases. Now let's start with the tools that you would need in phase one. As I said, phase one, you wanted to collect the different contracts you have, come up with the best 5, and maximize your score. So these are the 4 tools that you can use in phase one. Tool number 1, we call it contract selection tool. This is optional. I will say why. It's essentially used for large businesses that have, say, more than 30, 40 contracts, and in a sort of a distributed contract management system. I'll come back to that. Tool number 2 is a contract profiler, we call it. Tool number 3 is a contract score analyzer, and tool number 4 is contract selector or contract optimizer. Now, before going into any of these tools and the tools in phase 2 and 3, I just want to mention that when we say tools, there are 2 things that you should know. One, there's very little programming as far as, like a programming language involved in these. It's essentially Excel documents that any company can prepare. Anybody who's worked with Excel, you can do it. That's number 1. I wanted to, so these tools are essentially, you can create them yourself, and you don't need any programming knowledge to do it. And number 2 is, when we discuss tools, these are separate and different from templates. I've seen many proposal shops who say, hey, we have template for this RFP, template for that RFP, so you can prepare it yourself. This is not the case. These are just tools, so it doesn't rule out somebody in your organization who knows how to prepare self-scoring proposals. I want to underscore that many times because these are just tools. They're going to help you speed up your process and make your work proficient, but they're not going to replace you as the proposal manager. They're not, at least not, just one of them is AI supported. The others do not have any artificial intelligence, so they're not going to replace anyone. they're just going to speed up your process. I just wanted to make that point clear. Okay, so we're going to discuss each of these tools in the next slides. First tool, it's called Contract Selection Tool. This is the only one that is AI-driven, artificial intelligence. We've prepared this internally for our company. I doubt that another one exists similar to it, but almost most of companies do not need this. It's essentially for very large businesses who have a large number of contracts with dispersed contract management. So, for example, we did this for a large defense contractor. They had, I think, 12 or 13 different locations within US alone, in addition to a board. And they archived their contracts documents in each of those locations. So they had a dispersed contract management system. Now, coming up with the best 5 out of, I think they had 250 or something contracts, was a nightmare for them. They had, and they estimated that it took at least 120 hours just to find the contracts and bring them out of their archives. So this tool helped them. So this tool is not for small businesses, even for mid-sized businesses, essentially for large businesses, and those large businesses with dispersed contract management systems. What it does is that instead of going in through your archives, it's going to go through the government's public databases. And it uses specific criteria and provides a list of contracts. So at the end of the day, it lists a number of contracts that have the possibility to have a good score for you. So the criteria that it looks for, looks for contracts that have been completed within the last 5 years based on a given end date. So you give an end date, say, assume that the RFP is going to drop at the end of May or June, whatever, and it checks all the contracts completed within the last 5 years under your company name, but also those that are ongoing but have at least 6 months of performance. So it's not going to list anything with 2 or 3 months of performance. It's going to look for prime contracts as well as subcontracts under the government database. And then it's going to calculate the annual value of the contract. So it's not going to list all contracts for you. It's going to calculate the annual value based on the domain you tell it. So it knows, for example, that whether if you're going for, say, M&A under unrestricted, it knows that the annual value must be $1 million or more. So it's going to list only those contracts that are have an annual value of 1 million or more. And then it's at the same time, it's going to look for auto-relevant NAICS and PSC codes. So it's going to use all these 5 different values as an AND in the formula, and will list the contracts that you might have from the government's database. As I said, we did this for one, for example, very large business, and their own estimate was that it took them 120 hours to actually dig out this information. Ours is slow. It's not one of those very speedy AI-driven software, but it took about 24 hours. But at the end of the day, it listed all the contracts they had with all these 5 different requirements. And we've used this for a number of institutions and contractors, including some universities we used it for. Now, the output is in an Excel workbook, and based on how many domains you want to go after, it creates multiple sheets with the domains and the NAICS codes and PSC codes and everything in there. So this is the first tool. I'm not going to go into detail of that. So if you're a large company and you would like support on that, I guess I'm not suggesting that you start writing the program. We can help you on actually providing you the service. So let's move on. I think this is the most important tool to start with. Tool number 2, contract profiler. So once you have the list of your possible eligible contracts, so you know which contracts are eligible, say, within the last 5 years or so, the next tool you need is what we call a contract profiler. So this tool should help you profile the OASIS Plus required information for each contract. And when I say profile, I mean what sub-factors will give you points. And you want to see if each contract that you have, how it correlates to those sub-factors. And we call this profiling. And this is usually done in an Excel sheet. In our company, we use a questionnaire type form. I'll show you in a minute. For each contract, name of the contract, total value, the POP, period of performance, the NAICS code, PSC codes, and then perhaps yes, no's for the questions relating to the sub-factors. And then remember that when you're preparing your own tool, as those sub-factors are different for each domain, you need to create a different contract profiler for each domain. And if you're going both small business and unrestricted, again, you need different contract profilers because the requirements are different. So in the next slide, I'm going to show you a sample of this. This is what we call a questionnaire, or when we send it to our clients, but it's essentially a profiler, and I'm going to explain the different parts of it. Essentially, box number 1 is where it explains that this is the first QP. So the first QP is mentioned there, and the requirement, which is 500K, which is because this is an M&A for small business. In box number 2, you get all the sub-factors that are required, not only sub-factors, but also information that you would need at the end of the day to be able to work with this contract, such as the contract number or the name, or however you want to designate it, the NAICS code, total contract value, period of performance, and then a few questions under that, continuing on to profile this and correlate it with the sub-factors required for QPs. Under box 3, for each of these sub-factors or information pieces, some helping factors have been written. So it's supposed to help you understand what to actually enter. In box 4, you can see the first 4 rows of box 4. The first one is a contract designator. So because in our system, and you can use the same system, we want to connect these tools together. So you need to somehow designate each contract by a number or a name, so you can actually identify it in different tools. And this is how it's done there. So the first line says Navy BBT Tech is actually the name of that contract. And then the NAICS and the PSC, the auto-relevant NAICS and PSC, the total contract value, and the period of performance, which here is 915 days. So these you actually input, but the rest are just questions that you say yes and no, or no. So in box number 5, you can see that each of those boxes, you either, the default is that none of them are ticked, none of them are selected, and if it's a positive one, you just select it, and that's it. Now there is there are rules and formulas behind the scene working. I'll show that in a minute how that works. But essentially here, as far as you're concerned, when you're profiling, you just answer the question. Did you have 5 or more FTEs used in the project? Yes or no? You either tick it or not. And you start, answering these questions till the end. And then in box 6, you can see that the same thing, the same information again repeats for the second QP. The forms that we're using have a place for 10 QPs. but we can always multiply that. So, you know, if a client has, say, 20 contracts, they can actually fill out 2 of these forms, and, you know, each form has place for 10 QPs. It's not shown here, but at the end, after the QPs, you go into the FEPs, Federal Experience Projects, and then Systems, Certifications, and Clearances. They're essentially, most of them are just questions, so you say yes or no, except for example, how many task orders you have under multiple award IDIQs. Under FEPs, you say 2 or 3. Other than that, all the rest of them, whatever is related to FEPs or systems and clearances, are just questions, just like this, that you would just select, tick the box or untick it. That's all. So this is the first important form or checklist that you, not checklist, but a tool that you can actually fill out and use. We call it a contract profiler. At the end of the day, it will tell you what information from each contract correlates to the sub-factors that are required under OASIS Plus. So that was tool number 2. Now, tool number 3 is, we call it Contract Score Analyzer. Okay, now say you had 10 contracts and you filled out those forms, but you still don't know how they relate to each other, what score you will get. You just answered the questions and that's it. But this third tool, we need it because, first of all, OASIS Plus allows you to provide only 5 contracts and get points for them. But if you have more contracts under the, you know, that domain that you're going after, which one are you going to select out of the 10, out of the 20? Which 5 will give you the highest score? Or maybe you have only 3. Which 3, you do have 5 or 6, but only 3 of them are good enough. And then you want to bring in a partner. So you want to somehow see what score you will get and how you should pick the contracts. Obviously, it's not the largest contract is the best contract. That's not the way it works. Sometimes the highest value ones do not give you the highest score because there are 6 sub-factors involved in each QP. You want to see which ones, the combination of them, will give the highest score to each contract. So you need an analytical mind to do that, and to and this tool, this contract score analyzer, is there so that you don't need a PhD in math to be able to do it. This is going to help you on that. It's going to help you compare contracts together also. So the tool should independently score each contract by itself so that you can later on compare them. So the idea behind this tool is that you want a tool that can score each contract by its own independently and give it a score. And again, I just want to emphasize, the last point is this. If you're going for multiple domains, if you're going for both SP and unrestricted, again, you need to create different contract score analyzer tools because the requirements are different. Now, the fourth tool, I'm going to show you a sample of that, but because ours, the third tool and fourth tool are combined, but you can always have them separate. The fourth tool is actually the one that selects the best 5. So first you give a score to each contract, and then you use another tool perhaps, or a combination of tools to actually select the best 5 out of the 10, out of the 20. The contract score optimizer should be able to compare the score of each of these contracts and select the best 5 out of them. Now, what we use does that automatically and gives you the best 5. You can do that by observation alone as well. I mean, you don't need to have something programmed or anything like that. All you need to do is that your previous tool, the contract score analyzer, when it gives the score, it should print them, so to say, next to each other, so you can actually compare the score of the different contracts and then come up with the best. especially if you're not comfortable with VBA, Visual Basic, or Excel formulas. You can always do this by observation. Just look at the numbers and select. What we've done is to make it automatically, but it's not a must. And again, you have to do this for each domain, and SP and unrestricted separately. So now let's look at the tool we use. And this is, as I said, both tool 3 and 4. So it gives a score to each contract and then selects the best 5. So this is the form that we use. It is calculated fully automatically. So none of these fields that you're seeing here have been inputted by anyone. All of it comes from that profiler. So as I said, there are some background formulas working behind the scene. So when you actually enter those questions in the profiler and the different contracts that you have, it is automatically calculated and comes up here. So as far as our people are concerned, they don't do anything here. They just look at the numbers and come up with the conclusions. So let's look at the first, and I'm explaining all this so you can actually create your own tools, but this is how we're doing it. So here, the first box, number 1, is essentially each row is one of those sub-factors that are used for QPs plus FEPs plus systems and certifications. This is for an M&A small business. Obviously, it would be different for unrestricted, and obviously for different domains, it would be different. So the first box is essentially showing you that for each row, we are calculating everything separately. Each row is one of those sub-factors. Now, under box 2, you can see that the white column is the maximum score you can get per the RFP. So, for example, for QP relevance, you can get 20 points. For QP scale, maximum is 6 points. Now, the orange column, the second column in that box 2, is what actually is calculated after you enter those contracts, say 10 contracts, and the system automatically calculates it. And for example, in this case, you get the full 20 points, the full 6 points, and so on. Now, at the end of the day, if you look at box 3 at the bottom, you can see that it says total credits available, maximum allowed is 50. This company has received 44 points. And it says draft SP qualification threshold is 36. If it was an unrestricted, it would be 42. And it says 8, green 8 means that you're 8 points above the minimum threshold. So you have a good cushioning there, cushioning points. So you're all set to go. You don't need partnering probably. So our proposal managers look at this. And if you're working with our clients, we actually recommend their next step from here on. For example, for this client, we would tell them, hey, you're set to go. You don't need partners. Now we have to concentrate on substantiation and phase 2. But essentially, this box 3 tells you the maximum, the total score that you get, and then where you are as far as the minimum score is concerned, number 8 points above it. But the question is this: I gave 10 contracts, so how did it calculate it? Now, this is where actually we do this automatically. Let's look at number 5. I'll come back to number 4. Let's look at the star number 5. It has 2 arrows, one to that green area. The green areas you can see are the 5 that have been automatically picked. So if you look at the rows at the top, it says first QP, second QP, third QP, onwards until 10th QP. And 5 of them are green. They are shaded as green. The system has automatically selected these as having the highest scores. So this is how our system works. It automatically picks the best 5 contracts. Now, how does it do it? Because it has actually scored each contract separately, and you can see that in that graph, each contract score is written on it, and you can see that it's picked these with a 9 and one of them with an 8. The second one has 8 points. The other 4 have all 9 points. So as I said, if you list the contracts next to each other in a way that you can actually see the maximum score they get, you can always do this by just looking and observation. Our system does this automatically, so we don't have to do anything. Once it does that, so this 44 on box 3 is automatically calculated from the green contracts. So using those 5 green contracts is come up with the score 44. So all of this in our forum is done automatically. And just to give you an idea what's behind the scene, look at the star number 4 and that box. That's a formula. That's an Excel formula that has been placed in there to calculate actually 3 points, for example, for relevant past performance coming from those 5 green contracts. Now, obviously, so you need some learning to do if you don't already have Excel formula learning, but it's not very difficult. Probably this is the largest formula. I just wanted to show it to you. The others are much smaller, but you do need it anyway. And need a little bit of formula writing. It's different from programming or anything like that. So you can look it up, Google it, find out how to do it, and go about doing it. But essentially, this is how it's done. So each contract is scored separately, and the scores in our form are shown here in the graphic sense with the points written in them. And then they are compared together against each other. The best 5 are picked, added together, and we get that final score, which is shown on block 3, 44. So this is what we call the score analyzer and optimizer. So that those were the four different tools that we use in phase 1. Now let's look at the tools that we use in phase 2. If you remember, phase 2 was putting the proposal together. So it's essentially like it's shown here, highlighting different information and then putting notes next to each of them, explaining, perhaps providing some rationale as to why, and putting those notes there. And as far as Symphony is concerned, they have a tagging system, including that tagging system too. So let's look at the 2 tools that we're going to use. The first one, tool number 5, is substantiation metrics, and tool number 6 is compliance checklist. Now, compliance checklist is used by the proposal managers when they're actually preparing the proposal, and then it's used, as far as we are concerned, in our company, we have a separate compliance team. They use that same compliance checklist to actually check the proposals after they've been prepared. So this compliance checklist is used both in phase 2 and in phase 3. We'll go over it in phase 3. So in phase 2, I'm going to show you this substantiation matrix. Now, tool number 5, substantiation matrix. So in phase 2, you need a tool to assemble the proposal, which we said it's the contract documents that are required to justify the score that you're claiming in phase 1. So you need to put these documents together, and you need to know which documents you need to actually provide full substantiation. Now you need a matrix, a table to do this, to see which documents are needed. But refrain, this is important, refrain from using the traditional compliance matrix approach. You don't want to, make it a very confusing matrix that has everything in it. Here, you want to know which documents you need for each QP or each FEP, and different other items like systems and clearances. So it is important to know that you should differentiate this from the traditional compliance matrix, make it simple, and make it work. So, as I said, you need this. You need to have a list of all those documents that you need for each QP, FEP, systems and certifications on a case-by-case basis, and this will create a substantiation matrix. I will show you in a minute. And then remember that substantiation matrix is different based sometimes on the domains. So some domains might require more documents because of their sub-factors and factors involved. For example, if you're going for R&D, R&D has some specific requirements that others don't, or environmental or logistics. So you might need other documents that are not usually used in the other domains. So take that into consideration. Now, this is a sample of this tool, the substantiation matrix, as I mentioned, that we are using. So here it's trying to cover the QPs, qualifying projects. So the first box number 1, actually has the 5 sub-factors that are needed for each qualifying project. For example, relevance, scale, integrated experience, management and staffing, and functional experience. And as I mentioned, since this is, for example, for M&A, it might not have the specialized experience, integrated experience, which is in some other domains. So, as I said, you need to create this list for each domain specifically. So that's what's in box number 1, the different sub-factors. Now, look at box number 2. For each of these sub-factors, you want to know which documents might, and when you're preparing this tool, you shouldn't assume that what you have, what you don't have. Just list all the documents that might provide information. So, for example, in box 2, you're saying FPDS report, statement of work or PWS, contract award document, project verification form, JP3, contract selection B, section B, excuse me, subcontracting agreements, or any other verifiable contract documents. So these are the different types of documents that you have. Now, excuse me, look under box 3. Box 3, we are past the selection phase of the contracts, if you remember. So it's already listing the name of the 5 contracts that we're using. So these 5 contracts are the 5 contracts that we have selected and will give us the highest score. So that was done in phase 1. So we already know which contracts we're using in phase 2. In our forms, these are moved automatically. It doesn't have to be like that in your forms. Maybe you will write it by hand, but this is how it's done in our form. So, but you need to have, for each of those columns under box 3 are one of the contracts that are using for QPs. Now come back to box number 4. In front of box number 2, which was listing the names of the different contract documents that you might have, under box 4, you tick those boxes that for that particular contract, you will have information. So for example, for DoD EDU, that's one of our contracts, we know that as far as, look at box number 1, qualifying project experience, management and staffing. For management and staffing, I know that the FPDS report will have some information for me. I know that the statement of work will have some information for me. I know that the contract award will have something for me, perhaps a clean or something like that. And then I know that my JP3 form will have some information proving the score that I want to substantiate for management and staffing. So boxes 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all connected together. In effect, for each contract, you're saying for each sub-factor what documents are available and what documents you're going to use. all the documents listed are the ones that are relevant and available, but the ones that you tick are the ones that for this particular contract you will be using. So this will tell you when you're starting the work, this will tell you what contracts you should look for. When you finish the work, you know which contracts you must use and will prepare and will substantiate. So this is how this substantiation matrix works. Now, once you do this, you start actually doing the substantiation, and there you will use that checklist that I mentioned, the compliance checklist, which we will go into when we go into phase 3 tools. So here in phase 3 tool, again, I said compliance checklist, then you have tool number 7, submission checklist, and tool number 8, post-submission checklist. So since we don't have much time, I'll just go over the compliance checklist as far as going into details. So the compliance is needed in form and format plus content. And as I said, it's the most critical issue to consider when you're preparing your submission. You need this compliance checklist both in phase 2 and 3 to make sure that when you're preparing the proposal, as well as when you're checking it, you have this checklist to use. The substantiation includes checking for proper highlighting and presenting the justification and tagging that Symphony requires. This compliance checklist should cover every contract and or section of the submission. So it should cover QPs, FEPs, systems and certifications, all the administrative documents that you need to submit, the financials and everything, all of them separately and in detail. It's best if you can prepare it, it's best if you can do it in multiple iterations. So first of all, it shouldn't be that you only do it once. You should do it at least twice. And since you're going to do it twice, and perhaps the proposal manager has done it as well, so that's 3 times, you will probably need a placeholder to put in the names of people, as well as place for notes, so people can write notes about what's missing in the first round. So in the second round, they check, make sure that it's been checked. So you have to create a checklist that multiple people can use, perhaps dates and everything. What I'm going to show you is the simplified version. But as I said, to the right of this, you will have the name of people, date they checked, and things like that. So here, instead of, remember the previous one, the row was 1, for example, QP. Here, the row is 1 contract. So this is QP1, Navy BB TAC. So first box is the name of the contract. So this whole form that you're seeing right now is just about QP1. Now, under QP1, look at box number 2. There are different documents that you use. So for each document, now look at box 3. There are different sub-factors that you have to check. So for example, under contract award document, there's some general information. I'll explain what they are. There's relevance, there's scale, integrated experience, specialized functional experience, management and staffing, past performance, and past performance using small business utilization. So all of these might be relevant to this contract award document, might or might not. Now, the boxes to the right, which some are green and some are orange, are the ones that are relevant. Everything grayed out are irrelevant. So we have prepared this. So when our proposal manager looks at this, looks at, for example, scale in box 3, scale, he knows that he should only check for contract amount, the orange number, the orange, 2 orange ones. One is contract amount, the other one is annual amount, and then number of FTEs. So for scale, only these 3 boxes should be checked. Now, how does this work? Look at box number 4. Box number 4, the titles of these columns are all the informations that for each document, you need to check. Some of them are general. For example, the first 4 columns are general for most documents. For example, company name, contract number, agency or company name, if it's a commercial contract, CO signature. You really need to make sure that it does have the CO signature if it's required. And when I say when you tick it, it means that you checked that it's there, it's highlighted, and the annotation mark is next to it. So there's a note next to it. If that's the case, you tick the box. As long as you don't tick the box, it stays orange. So it means that it's not done. So green means that it's when you tick it, it automatically, you don't color it. It automatically turns into green. You know that it's checked. It's checked that it has been highlighted. It's checked that there's a note to the side of it, and it's checked that the note is relevant and is correct. If that's the case, it's checked, and this is your checklist. So this helps you actually look at the different things. For example, look at box number 5, and we see that, for example, it's assumed that it's a CPAR. What's missing here? The CO signature, the 4th column, is orange. It means that it should have been signed. It's not signed. So that's a problem. So this, at the end of the day, will tell me what is missing, as well as which ones I have checked, which ones have work to do. So this is the checklist that both the proposal manager plus the compliance people will be using both in the preparation as well as when they're checking for compliance. Each and every one of these, this is, remember, just QP1. The same thing repeats for QP2, then QP3, QP4, QP5, then for each of your FPEs, Federal Experience Projects, FEPs, excuse me, and then as well as systems and clearances. You have to create this specific to that particular subfactor and make sure that all the boxes are green, those that are necessary. So at the end of the day, you know that you have everything in place. Okay, we are way behind, so I'll go very quick here. Phase 3 tools, submission checklist, and the next one, which is post-submission checklist. Now, these are essentially not prepared now. We are waiting for the full RFP to drop. We know how it is. We have our draft. So I'm not showing you any samples of this, but essentially you should create a submission checklist that provides a list of all the documents that you need to upload. It should be detailed out for each QP, FEP, and systems and certifications, all the administrative documents, financial documents, everything. Ensure that it has a location for signing off by the person who has done the compliance check. So this checklist also must be signed, perhaps put a name, by the people, both by the person who's uploaded it, plus the person who has checked the upload. So 2 people at least, at a minimum, must check. This is our experience. We suggest that you do it. 2 people must check this checklist. And then there's a post-submission checklist. You really need to have this. I've seen cases in which we did this for very large company. We uploaded everything for them and checked. They said that they can't provide us with the financials, so they submitted their financials. At the end of the day, they submitted the wrong documents. So one of the checks that you should do, you must download. After you upload everything, you must download everything again and check. Yes, you heard correctly. Download everything and check that you have uploaded the correct document. The correct document. As I said, I've seen mistakes like that. Different documents have been uploaded. So once you're done with everything, download each and every one of them and check that you've uploaded the correct one. Also, you need to check that the total score calculated by Symphony, because you don't upload the compliance scoring sheet. It calculates automatically. You must make sure that what Symphony comes up with corresponds with what you have on paper, what you have on your checklist. And if not, it means that you've uploaded something incorrectly. And make sure that all the administrative documents are uploaded correctly in the right place. If you're doing multiple domains and multiple submissions, as we call them, tracks like SP and unrestricted, again, this checklist is even more important. I'm done. Muge, can you take over, please? And
Thank you, Ab. That was wonderful. Yes, I'll take over. We're going to quickly now run through the services that GDI Consulting offers. We have supported many companies doing self-scoring proposals. As you can see, some of our success here, we've done awards, OASIS Large 12, Small Businesses 41. We've supported Astro for large and small businesses, Alliant, HCATS, VATS, NAVAIR, PMCSS. So our company does have over a decade of experience. Because of our success, we have grown over repeatedly year after year. We do have a very high win rate at 82% or more. Our subject matter experts that we have been with the company have over 20 years or more experience supporting multiple verticals, industries, and multiple government agencies. So depending on what you're doing or whether it's OASIS, you can be assured that you're going to have a project manager that's assigned to you that is very experienced. Just in 2022 alone, we've had 162 wins, bringing more than $13.6 million contracts cumulative in our history. Again, we're running out of time, so I'm not going to go through, but you can see a sample of our successful wins over the years. So for services that we provide, we do free consultation. If you just want to know what your score could be, please reach out to us. We can service you with a pre-qualification assessment. Again, as Ab showed, you complete a questionnaire. We'll come to you with a score and talk to you about optimization. If you want us to do the full proposal development, we'll do the heavy lifting. We'll do everything from scoring assessment, optimization, help you with assembling, the compliance, the highlighting, tagging, all that good stuff, and also helping you upload onto Symphony. We'll watch over you doing a shared screen. Tools and proposal support, everything that we've mentioned here, we can give you that support. Additionally, if you're very comfortable in doing this yourself, but you just need that extra set of eyes for compliance, we can also do compliance review and auditing. We'll do compliance checks, making sure the score we all agree, or help you even optimize it more. Again, with that, we will upload to Symphony. So again, we do all sorts of other services from proposal development, capture management, support services, competitive intelligence. We can do black hat exercises, prices to win, or we can even do training for you. So whatever type of service that you need, we are a turnkey full service provider in government contracting. For any of our services, feel free to contact Ab. You can contact for technical support, technical questions, etc. And Maroon Freedy is our VP of Commercial and Sales, so he would be the one you need to contact to hire us for any of the services that we have mentioned here. With that, I might have 2 minutes to answer a couple of questions. We have a question that has to do with the Bureau of Logistics labor categories. It states that labor categories are defined as junior, journeyman, senior based on duties, responsibilities, and expected years of experience. Does this infer that a computer science analyst junior and a computer systems analyst journeyman will be considered as two labor categories for scoring purposes? Yes, that is correct. This is the same question. The next question is, provide any details you have on pricing requirements that are being considered by GSA in the final OASIS solicitation. We assume that as previous, schedules and GWACs and what have you, they'll probably give us a list of categories, of labor categories, but again, they'll be priced, and as in the JP1, where it breaks out as, junior, journeyman, senior, and subject matter expert. That's how we expect that pricing to come out, but who knows? We'll see what they do when it actually does come out. Given the recent court of federal claims on the Polaris GWAC. Can you provide your thoughts on the impact to OASIS and final release of the RFP? Well, based on that court ruling, right now it's sort of on hold, including any updates on a submission based on the article that was out. So now they're going back and reevaluating how it's going to affect that mentor-protege, unfair advantage, and then also adding the pricing. Now the labor categories have to be determined, et cetera. So they may give us an update this month, as I mentioned earlier, but we expect a little bit of a delay now. Question, and then as usual, this was super helpful. Thank you. You're very welcome. Do you have any updates from the GSA regarding the release? Yes, as you said, it's causing QPs to fall out of POP range, which is crazy, but you know, what can we do? I guess they're going to take a little bit of time to decide on how the new RFP is going to look like. And then I have one other question. If Symphony scores lower in the areas than we have calculated, our explanations provided how the system obtained the score. Actually, this will have to do with you missing on uploading an attachment. I'm not sure if you were involved in the Symphony site before. When it is open, we will encourage you to go into their knowledge base and look at videos on how to upload, because there are pages missing that you can, not missing, but it's a little bit hard to find if you don't know how to find it. So if you do not upload a particular document, it's not going to calculate properly. So your scoring, especially if you work with us, is spot on. If that score in Symphony is not matching, it probably has to do with a check mark you didn't check, or a document that wasn't properly uploaded. That's why we also encourage that you do not wait until a few days before to upload. You get documents ready, you start uploading it way ahead of time. And this is a very good time right now to get everything ready. Hopefully we're not going to see a major change in how QPs are to be prepared. I think that's going to stay the same. So this is a good time right now for you to select your qualifying projects, your FEPs, IDIQs, and start highlighting, tagging, getting everything ready for the release. With that, we have run out over time, but thank you so much for joining our webinar. We hope that you can join again soon on our next webinar, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone, on my part also. And we will answer those questions that we were unable to answer because of the time. We'll answer you by email. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.